So in the previous video, we actually finished off our LinkedList demos. So now it's time for a challenge. So I'm going to type out the challenge for you to really help understand linked lists. Okay, so here is our challenge. So the idea is to create a program that implements a playlist for songs. So you want to create a song class which has got title and duration for the song, and the program will have an album class containing a list of songs. Now the actual albums will be stored in an array list. Songs from different albums can be added to the playlist, and the playlist is actually our linked list, and the songs that we can add will appear in the list in the order they're added. So that's the linked list functionality. Once the songs have been added to the playlist, you want to create a menu of options to add this functionality. Quit out of the menu, skip forward to the next song, skip backwards to a previous song, replay the current song, list the songs in the playlist as well. Now, a song must exist in an album before it can be added to the playlist. Remember that the songs are stored in albums in an array list, but the playlist is a linked list. So in other words here, making sure that the song exists in an album before it can be added to the playlist, so you can only play songs that you own, that you've got in your catalog. And a hint for this is to replay a song. Consider what happens when we went back and forward, or what happened when we went back and forth from a city in the previous video before we started tracking the direction. So you probably want to do something like that. And as an optional extra, provide another menu option to remove the current song from the playlist. And a hint for that is to look at list iterator.remove. So that's it. That's the challenge. Go away and try that out. And once you've tried it out and got a working solution, or you've had enough and want to see my solution, come back and play the video, and I'll go through and show you how to do it. So pause the video now and I'll see you when you get back. Okay, so how did you get on? Hopefully you figured it out and you came up with a solution. But let's now go through what my solution is for this. And bearing in mind, as I've said often in the past, this is just one solution. There's always more than one way to develop almost anything when you're programming. So let's start off, create a song class. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to create our song class. Call it song, obviously. And we're going to have two fields. Private string will be the title, the name of the song, and private double duration. And we're using a double so we can actually have decimal points, because all songs don't play for exactly 3 minutes or exactly 4 minutes. Okay, add a constructor, and the constructor is going to be both parameters there. We're also going to add a getter for the title. And also we're going to return a toString, and we'll see this in use later on. And this is just a quick way to actually output the contents of an actual object. ToString is part of the Java infrastructure for all objects, and I can show you that. We can actually go to override it. Override. Notice how we're in object, and of course, if you recall from our object-oriented programming section, all classes are inherited from the object class, and you can see there's a toString there. And this is optional, so you're not going to lose points if you haven't done this, but I'm just going to show you how to use toString as well. So traditionally, what you do in a toString, you do something like this.title plus this.duration. So you would normally print out the actual contents of the class, so the various fields. And it's just a good way to actually quickly print out an overview of what that particular object for that class is actually set to. So you'll see that in use later on anyway. So let's now create an album class. That's the next thing we need to do. Album is the name of it. And just to go back as a recap, the program will have an album class containing a list of songs. The albums will be stored in an array list. So we need to go back and do that. So what we want to do then is we want to have the album name, which is going to be private string name, private string artist. But now we need to create an array. That's an array list of songs. That's going to be the songs that are, of course, part of this array. So the constructor we need to create will have the name and the artist as parameters, but then we also want to initialize the array list. So this dot songs equals new array list to make sure it's initialized so that we can actually use it without getting any errors. So So next we get to the stage of some methods to add some functionality. So one of the first things we need to do is we need to be able to add a song so that the song actually goes into our array list. So to do that, we're going to create a method called add song. And I'm going to use Boolean. We don't necessarily have to use Boolean, but I'm going to do that just to make sure that's validated. So I'm going to type add song, string title, double, duration. Then we're going to do if find song title is equal to null, this.songs.add new song title duration. Return true, otherwise return false. So in other words, what we're doing here with this validation is we're checking to see or to make sure that we're not duplicating songs. Songs can only be added once. So we're doing the comparison test on the actual title. And we'll write that method next, the find song. We can make that a private because it's only going to be used internally. Private song, find song, string title. And we put for song, check song, this.songs. Now what I'm introducing here, I'll just go through and write the code and then we'll explain it. I'll explain it. Check song.getTitle.equals title. Return check song. Return null. Now what this line here is, this is an alternative way to actually go through a list of entries. It's known as the for each command in Java. So what it's actually doing is, it's instead of us having to put for I equals 0, I less than the actual size of the array list and I++, what this does, it actually goes through and creates a variable called check song for every entry that's actually in our array list. So it's the equivalent of doing our normal iterations where we go through and increment a variable called I equals I plus 1, and and do a test for .get I and so on and so forth. This is a shortcut. So again, what happens is Java with this code here probably does the same code internally that we were doing, but this is far easier to read. So again, as a confirmation, for every entry as we go through this for loop, every entry that's in our array list, Java will automatically create this variable called checked song, and from there we can actually use it as we would normally use. We do if check song.getTitle.equals title. So what we're doing, of course, is just making sure that there's no duplicates. But this for each statement is actually an abbreviation to make things a little bit easier when you want to navigate through an array list or any type of list for that matter. So that's what that is. So if we actually find the title, then we return the actual title itself. Otherwise, we return null. And of course, the test here in add song is actually looking for null. If we don't get null, it means the song already existed and we return false. But if we do get null, then it's going to add the song and then return true. So that's it. That's our add song and find song. But we also need some way to add songs to a playlist. So what we're going to do is we're going to add to the playlist method. Because of course we've got songs, but at the moment we've got no concept of a playlist. Now here's where we get a little bit tricky, because what we're going to do is we're going to create this playlist method, and we're going to actually add the actual songs that are part of this album to that playlist. And we're going to actually pass that playlist as a parameter, which is our linked list. So the code we're going to create is public boolean add to playlist int track number, then linked list, which is going to be a linked list of songs, which we're going to call our playlist. And I'm going to type some of this code, then we'll go through it. Int index equals track number, take 1. If index is greater than 0 and index is less than or equal to this.songs.size, we do playlist.add this.songs.get index. I need another bracket there, I think. And at that point, we're going to return true. Otherwise, we'll print out a message here which will say this album does not have a track plus track number. Return false. Okay, so let's just review this code because it might be a little bit confusing. So firstly, what we're doing is we're actually passing the actual track number that we want to add. Now, normally we would hide the index from the users of our classes, but songs in an album actually do have a track number. So if you actually buy a CD, the song has actually got a track number. So that's what we're doing, is we're using that track number as a way to reference the actual entries for this album. So what that means is when we're adding the songs up here, we need to add them in the same order, so that the first time we add an entry, that's actually track number 1, track number 2, track number 3, and so on. So by doing that, what we're now doing is we're actually doing a test here. So we're passing the track number that we want to get added to our playlist, and we're also passing our playlist. And then we're doing a test here, the int equals track number take 1, because of course track numbers start from 1 in terms of how we read them. We don't have a track 0, but internally, of course, in our array lists, our counting starts from 0. So that's why we're putting a take 1. Then what we're doing here is we're just making sure that there actually is a song in that entry. So if there is a song, in other words, there's a song at that index position for this array list, then we'll actually add this song object to the playlist that was passed to us automatically. And of course that, as you're going to be seeing later, is we'll actually look at changing the code for that in a minute. So consequently, we're passing the track number we want, and we're passing the playlist. It does some validation, and if the actual entry for our song is there, so that track number the song has been added in the right position, then we're actually going to then add that to our playlist. Otherwise, we return a message to say that there's actually an error. So now it's not actually a requirement to overload the method to successfully meet this challenge, but what I'm going to do is also add a second option, which is the ability to be able to add to playlist, but at this time pass the title instead of just having a track number. So track number equates to the index position in the actual array list, but let's also add overload this method to add another option where we can actually add it but use title instead of the track number. So we'll do something like, give it a space here, public boolean add to playlist. This time we're going to pass the title. We'll get the title will be passed to us, but then the linked list song playlist. We'll do something a little bit different. So we do song, check song, equals find song, title. And of course this time we want to check that it's not null, which means that it was found on file. So put if check song not equal to null, playlist.add check song, return true because we successfully found it. Otherwise, the song plus title is not in this album. Return false. And as you can see, there's two ways now for us to add a song to a playlist, either by the track number, which again equates to the index position, the order that they're actually added when we use the add song method, or the actual title itself. Now the other thing we could have done here, which we won't go into a lot of detail about, but we could have added the actual add to playlist in the actual song object itself. Alright, so this is future Tim recording this in the future, and I'm actually adding this bit of audio here now just to let you know that there's actually a problem with this bit of code here, this add to playlist method that we've been working on. Now the next video I'm going to show you how to make the change in full, but you can see what I've got on the screen there now is a small little change. Basically the if statement is incorrect, and that's because the index always starts from 0. So if we enter track number 1, index value will be 0 since 1 take 1 is 0. Now consequently what will happen is the if statement will be false and the code will print this album does not have a track 1. So basically, as you can see on the screen, the change is we need to actually change the index greater than 0 to be index greater than equal to 0. But we'll go through and make that change in the next video. Alright, so let's go back now to where I was talking previously, just finishing off the explanation of this method. But what I chose to do was actually add it in the album because we're actually looking at the album when we're actually creating the playlist. But it would be equally valid if you decided to add the mechanism to add a song to the playlist if you had that code in the actual song class. That would be perfectly fine to do it that way as well. Okay, so time is ticking on with this video, so I'm going to actually end the video here now. But in the next video, we'll continue on and we'll actually start creating albums and adding songs and testing some of this code out. So I'll see you in the next video.